16 of the world's biggest teams head down under to compete for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup.
This is just thrilling to chaos.
This is going for 6.
Hear every ball of every match on 5 Sports Extra and the BBC Sounds app. 5 Live Cricket.
Are England back as World Cup contenders?
That's 6. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. How far's he hit that? Entertaining game of cricket, and that's a very good win for England.
After a slip against Ireland, Chris Woakes isn't taking a victory over Sri Lanka for granted.
Having played a lot of cricket and experienced as I am, you do realise that this game can be fickle at times, and you do have to park that and just remind yourself that, you know, it's a new day, it's a new game, and kind of anything can happen again.
5 Live Cricket.
Yes, good evening. Welcome to Thursday's 5 Live Sport. I'm Eleanor Oldroyd. We'll get stuck into the T20 World Cup in just a moment. But just to let you know what else is on this evening, Manchester United are at Real Sociedad in the Europa League. They will win the group if they can win by 2 goals tonight. Into the second half, United currently 1-0 up. Also tonight, Arsenal plays Zurich at the Emirates. Arsenal top of the group. That is an 8 o'clock kickoff. Earlier, Hearts lost 3-1 in the Europa Conference against Istanbul Başakşehir. West Ham kick off against FCSB at 8 o'clock in the same competition. Also at 8, Sonia McLaughlin will be here ahead of semi-finals weekend at the Women's Rugby Union World Cup. England play Canada live on 5 Live from 3:30 on Saturday morning. And then tonight, EuroLeagues is on at 9 with Alistair Bruce Ball, and they have got an interview with the director of football from Shakhtar Donetsk, a club which, of course, has been severely impacted by the war in Ukraine. But for the next hour, it's all about the cricket. And I'm pleased to say that I'm joined by 3 former England stars. Spinner Philip Tufnell, opener Michael Carberry, and pace bowler Stephen Finn. Perfectly balanced team. How are we all?
Evening, Ellie. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening.
Hi, Carbs. How are you doing?
Balance. It's all
It is all
balance.
about balance. Finn, are you with us as well?
I am here, yes, yeah. It's nice to be with you through the airwaves this evening.
It's very lovely to be with you as well. Look, we've got lots to talk about, but let's start by just kind of reflecting slightly on what happened earlier on today, because this has been such an open competition, surprisingly, really, going into the final round of group games. Pakistan earlier on pulling off another bit of a frantic victory over South Africa. More rain around, but proof, I suppose, that Pakistan have got the talent, if not the consistency, Tuffers.
Absolutely. South Africa, one of the favourites for me as well. So a huge victory for Pakistan. It's been a strange sort of competition, hasn't it? It's sort of it's just starting to get a bit of rhythm to it. And I think England have sort of suffered for that, as well as I think a few of the teams have. You know, there's been rain around. All I've seen is puffer jackets and towels over heads and what have you. You know, it's been different. It's been difficult to get into the swing of it. But a great victory for Pakistan. It's wide open for me. Anyone can beat anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's made it good. Yeah.
The whole issues around DLS. Carbs, I know that they've frustrated a few people, but the rain has not helped, has it?
No, and like Tuffer says, T20 is all about getting in a rhythm, and as proven with England's last win, I think if you look at England before that, certainly on the batting front, they have looked a little bit rusty up to that point. No one really got going. I think some of the pitches have been quite tough as well. They've tended to zip through early on, and you've seen the likes of Hales and Joss to some degree hasn't really got going until the other night, and that was great. Great to see him back in the runs as well as Hales as well. So, yeah, you hope from now on that the rest of the lineup can get going as well.
Finny, have you enjoyed watching and listening from home?
Yes, yeah, it's been a shame not to be there, actually. I've enjoyed my times in Australia commentating last year, but yeah, it's been good to watch. I think the topsy-turvy nature of the T20 format means that the upsets have been interesting. Every game's not a foregone conclusion, and the games can twist and turn on a sixpence as they go through. So, yeah, it's been a fascinating tournament so far. I think we're starting to see the teams that are finding a method and a level of consistency on those pitches. We just need the weather to play ball now.
Right, well, we're going to talk about England in depth in just a moment, but before we do that, I want you all to have a little bit of a listen to this.
O'Dowd waiting, free hit. And it's a low full toss, whipped into the leg side, dropped short of the fielder. Oh, it's a horrible misfield, and it's going to bring 4 runs. Oh, and he's completely lost his trousers. I mean, that is, as for bits of fielding go, that is as bad as it gets, I'm afraid. And Milton Shumba, I think if you could have designed how that pickup was going to go, failing to stop it, colliding with the boundary, and revealing your grey boxer shorts.
I think that sums up Zimbabwe's day. They haven't batted well, they haven't bowled well, and then, we're seeing stuff like that.
Oh, dear.
Oh, a lovely bit of commentary from Henry Moran, just describing it perfectly.
It happens quite a lot, It's happened to me on a couple of occasions. You go for a diving sprawl, and you haven't quite done your string up in your trousers properly, and down they come. I mean, I've seen a few happen. I think it happened to Ravi Bopara during the 100 as well. Just as well he was wearing his grey boxer shorts.
Well, absolutely. And that was Milton Shumba who lost his trousers. Not helped, as we know, by the old boundary sponge, which we'll talk about in a bit more later on. But I mean, it's a comedy moment in every sense, Carbs, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, as I say, beautifully summed up by the commentators. It just shows you, when you're having that tough day, and then that something like that happens when you're desperately trying to save every run. And it's almost like cricket just kicking the proverbial sand in your face with your trousers ending up around your ankles. I mean, it was gold.
Yeah. Right, we're going to get you all to think about when that happened to you, and we will reveal all at the end of well, not literally reveal all, I hope, at the end of the programme.
Finney will be all right, because his trousers are quite long anyway, so I think he's fine. It's just us shorter guys, it might be in a bit of trouble.
Maybe didn't do too much diving in the outfield as well, Finney, perhaps. I don't know. I'm not going to predict that. But any moments of sporting humiliation, you can share them with us. We'd love to hear from you this evening. 85058 on the text, or at 5Live Sport. Whether you witnessed it or whether it happened to you, we would love to hear from you. Right then, let us get into talking about England, because after the defeat to Ireland, then the washout against Australia, the hopes of reaching the semi-finals were in serious jeopardy. They had to beat New Zealand on Tuesday to keep their chances alive, and they did so convincingly, with captain Jos Buttler leading from the front with 73 off 47. Alex Hales made 52 off 40, and the Seamers closed out the victory as New Zealand fell 20 runs short. I mean, I think apart from that horrible missed catch by Moeen Ali, Finney, everything was pretty much faultless for England.
Yeah, it was. It's a lovely time to be hitting your straps in every facet of the game. Yeah, barring that drop by Moeen Ali, which thankfully didn't cost England too much, maybe a little bit of net run rate, but I don't think that's going to be an issue for them. But yeah, certainly they put together a nice game, didn't they? Jos Buttler and Alex Hales coming into form. They look like they've been tricky wickets to bat on in the first 6 overs or so. So for them to get the flyer that they got in that game was a great effort. And then I think the diversity of England's attack, the left arm of Sam Curran, and the way that he's turned into England's finisher with the ball almost in the last few months in that Pakistan series. And then here in the World Cup, I think it's all coming together nicely for them to put a nice run towards the end of the tournament.
Michael, do you think that setting a total rather than chasing a target, is that going to be more the Jos Buttler way? Because chasing was very much the Eoin Morgan way.
Not necessarily. I think with this England team, I think, they're such an experienced bunch now. They've been together a few years. I think they're very comfortable either way, really. I think, we have such firepower with the bat. I think, and the way we play our white ball cricket, I'm very confident that England are comfortable chasing as well as setting a total. I agree with Finney. I think that the pitches, from what I've seen early on, have been a little bit tricky up front, especially in Perth. They tended to nibble around a little bit. So it'll be interesting for me to see if there's just a slight change of approach, just to say, try and maybe set their stall a little bit lower in that 6, knowing that they've got the firepower to catch up at the back end. Even someone like Moeen Ali coming in, at 7 in that sort of sort of part of the innings to up the ante. It'll be interesting to see if there's any change of mindset there.
Yeah, they do seem to have a bit more flexibility in a way, Tuffers, don't they? Or they're going for this idea that, you know, you can just mix up your batting order a bit. So Moeen came in at 3, didn't he? I think Milan, who was set to come in at 3, came in at 7 in the end. Yeah. But what is that saying to other teams about the strength of that batting lineup?
Well, good.
Well, I mean, everyone knows that the strength, you know, that England possess in that batting lineup. I think also, I think that's just Josh Buttler just sort of having a little bit of his input on this England side. Now, I thought they played very well against New Zealand, and they needed to under immense pressure, you know, and I think that they just decided to go about things slightly differently. I was impressed with the way he captained as well. I think he's perhaps now looking a little bit more at matchups in his sort of approach, more than perhaps just that gut feel. And I think he's sort of like really now getting into his captaincy, and that proved, against New Zealand. But I mean, you can really send whoever you want out in that England batting lineup. But as the boys were saying, up front, it is a little bit tricky, and you do have to reassess things as well, especially with some of these fantastic bowling attacks and great opening bowlers. They're not going to be easy to smash all over the park early doors. So I think that this England side, as you say, performed really well under pressure when they needed to, and it bodes well. And I think that Joss now is starting to really put his stamp on this side, so to speak, and Matthew Mott a little bit.
Yeah, they've certainly come together as a team, haven't they? Mott and Buttler. I think it's important to have that relationship between captain and coach. I do like the way that England have played with flexibility. They have chopped and changed the batting order. David Milan, I think, came in at 7 the other day to have a slog off one ball, didn't he, at the end of the innings, because they didn't anticipate needing him as the anchor through it because of the start that they got. So being open to things like that, I think, in T20 cricket is very important. And I think Joss Buttler, from all the people that I've played with, he's one of the best at sensing situations in games. I think now he's learning how to articulate that in a tactical form with the way that he manoeuvres his team. And I think, again, the more experience he gets of that and the more positive experiences he has of his decisions being good or coming good in a game is going to give him the confidence to then keep improving and getting better as a captain as well.
For the bowlers, Stephen, the way that they went about their business, I thought was impressive, wasn't it? I mean, Chris Woakes got a bit of stick for previous performances in the tournament, but he played really well. And Sam Curran as well. I think you mentioned it, Michael, that Sam Curran has just got a cool head for somebody who's so young.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam Curran's really impressed me. He's, really from that Pakistan series on those tough pitches with not a lot to work with. He's not the tallest of fast bowlers, so he has to be super accurate, and someone who's performing really, really well when they can replace Chris Jordan in the side, who's been a magnificent death bowler for England for quite a few years now. And Sam Curran, gives you something a little bit different, that left arm angle. He's bowled some superb Yorkers. He's even surprised people with with his short ball as well. And he takes wickets. He's got that sort of golden arm. And I think he's, proven to be very, 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 very effective in the role that he's playing. And you can see the confidence, is coming through with every game he plays.
Yeah, and I think the way that they've kept it simple, I think sometimes you can second guess yourself in T20 cricket where you start trying to overthink what you're doing or overcomplicating. I think with the size of the boundaries and the assistance that's on offer, especially for seam bowlers, I think the importance in keeping it simple and just banging a good length, a heavy length over the top of the stumps has served England well with their diversity of angle and pace with Wood and Woakes and Curran. I think it's serving them well at the moment.
Yeah, I was listening to Owen Morgan talk about Sam Curran, actually, and he was saying that he's one of the most, and you'll probably know this, Finney, as well, he's got real clarity of thought. You know what I mean? He says he does not change. He knows, and he bowls from a batsman's point of view as well. And this is what sort of all-rounders can do a little bit as well, because they just sort of seem to know the right ball to bowl at the right time. And, you know, his accuracy is key, because as Carbs was saying, he hasn't got this great pace, but he's got that sort of surprise bouncer on him as well. But he's just got that sort of real clarity of thought when he's bowling that delivery of how he's going to sort of produce that skill. And he nails it 9 times out of 10. I mean, you know, as you say, for a young fellow who's just sort of learning his way in the game, but he's not really, is he? I mean, he's played franchise cricket and what have you, but, you know, he really looks like he enjoys that challenge. And when you bowl at the death, you've got to do that.
Yeah, and you have to commit to what you're trying to bowl. I think I've been guilty of it in the past, where you have a plan, but you're sort of half committed to it, and then you end up just trying to put the ball there, and it comes out with nothing on it, and the batter just says thanks very much and whacks it over your head. But he seems to have that real clarity and commitment to what he's doing, and I think that in those situations where you're under pressure, that's sometimes the hardest thing to do, and he seems to have the character to be able to do it.
And Woakesy, and you were saying about Woakesy as well. I mean, all the experience in the world, isn't he? He's got the chance of becoming a double World Cup winner if he wins 3 more games.
He has, yeah. He's got the grey hairs as well to match it, hasn't he? Silver fox at the moment.
Man, that beard's getting bigger as well.
Actually, you say that effectively. I mean, the way that England have gone about this campaign, I mean, I'm not saying this is a deliberate ploy, that they were a bit kind of tentative against, Afghanistan didn't take it on in the way they could. Then were unlucky, possibly, with a little bit with the weather, but still had got themselves into all sorts of trouble against Ireland, which they didn't need to. But effectively, they're now playing knockout cricket, Michael, aren't they, in the group stages? And that actually seems to work quite well for them in previous World Cups.
Yeah, completely. I think, you know, if you look at the start, I think there's always those little bits of nerves, floating around. Everyone's a little bit of jostling for position, isn't there, in those first few games, getting a feel and a flavour of the conditions, because they have been quite tricky. And I wouldn't say that England have had any real easy games. I mean, if you look at that group, I mean, there's some very, very good sides, and the nature of T20 cricket, anyone can beat anyone. But, you know, I always felt that once England have put in that performance, which they did against New Zealand, was a top performance against a top side, and a side that they've got good history against in the last couple of years as well. You felt now that, you know, things are off and running now. You hope that now they can keep that going. Now that they can't afford to mess up now. They have to play. They have to go for it. Which has suited them really well over the last couple of years. That, as Finney said, you know, that real clarity both with the ball and with the bat, and it should be exciting.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get past Sri Lanka, and of course they're going to be playing last, which is very handy, isn't it? Because they're going to know what they're going to have to do to sort of win, and run rates and all this kind of stuff. All sides, I think, have been struggling. You know, we say this word a lot in cricket, don't we? Momentum. So if they can just get that start to build that momentum, it almost suits them down perfectly now. You know, if they've had that sort of bit of a wobble and, you know, things haven't quite gone their way, then they put in a good performance, another good performance against Sri Lanka, bang, you're in the semi-finals, and you get on that roll. And that's what I think all sides have been struggling with. So I still fancy England. I fancied them from the moment they went over there, and I think that, you know, it's in their hands to win it.
Yeah, well, look, I tell you what, we're going to talk a bit more about what they need to do against Sri Lanka. Let's take each game individually if we can. But I don't know if you've listened, guys, to Mark Wood and Tamal Mills, who are both recording their Good Pace for Radio podcast for us throughout the World Cup. You can find it on BBC Sounds. And the latest episode reflects on that victory against New Zealand, in which Tamal was 12th man. So one of his tasks was to run drinks out to the middle. Here are their thoughts on how the mindset of captain Jos Buttler in particular got England over the line.
It was a brilliant game. It was a big game. It had a different feel about it, I think, the whole day. Did you feel that as well?
I thought the intensity of the whole day, not just like a warm-up, and, you know, there's a game on before us, wasn't there?
Yes.
So we had to wait a little bit. We trained in the nets at the back of the Gabba. We didn't warm up on the field. But I felt there, and the way that everyone was, I think we have two buses, don't we? We have an early bus where people go in, and then a later bus. There was hardly anybody on the later bus. Everyone went in early. Everybody was like dead ready for the game. I just felt the intensity was right up there, and I think the performance was passionate.
The whole day just felt a bit bigger. It felt like a bit where I'm saying this, but it felt like a big World Cup game, whereas some of the other games have had smaller crowds. There's obviously been weather around. It's been a little bit disjointed, whereas it felt like a big game. It was obviously a huge game for us. If we would have lost that game, we'd have been knocked out pretty much, wouldn't we? So it was obviously a massive game for us, and everybody stepped up and kind of. I felt like everybody...
You did some running.
We were busy on the bench, but making sure the boys were all okay.
Josh was up for it as well. I know you'd mentioned it was his 100th game, but even, do you know when he was batting with Mo, he was punching his glove, He wasn't just tapping his glove, he was punching his glove.
Yeah.
And Josh has got that in him. He's got that quiet guy, isn't he? But he's got that fiery, competitive side to him. I think he was desperate for England to get through, obviously captain, and he really wanted it for the lads, didn't he?
Yeah, and so I was obviously running messages and drinks and gloves on and off the field, and there were times, where I basically, as a 12th man, one of your jobs is to obviously get some information from the batters in the middle and relay it back.
I bet it's assess what. Do you tell them a joke? Do you be serious?
Sometimes I'd go out there and I'd say, have you got anything for the boys? And he'd give me kind of very little. He was kind of almost in the zone, like kind of as such. So I remember there was times like that. So for those of you listening, remember Graham Napier used to play for Essex. Napes, every so often, maybe 3 times a year, he'd just turn into a different man and he'd score. He scored that famous 150 odd in a T20 game. And I remember I was batting with him in a 4-day game. So I was batting 11 and he was batting with me, and he was literally hitting every ball for 6. And I try and talk to him in the middle, and he was glazed over, and it's almost like you were in a kind of a hyper kind of state of focus. And as I say, Josh definitely did seem really on that game. It obviously meant a lot to him to kind of get us the score that we needed. The pitch was it was a used pitch. There'd been 2 games on that pitch previously. Spin was a little bit tricky to face. Santner and Sodhi looked like they bowled well, but him and Baz obviously did a great job, got us to the drinks break at 10 overs without any wickets lost, and kind of laid the platform for us to get a total that you boys could go out and defend.
Speaking of glazed, Stokes obviously World Cup final, that comes to mind for me when I went out there to run with him. He was glazed over, and another one was who I've batted with is Johnny Bairstow. He can sometimes get in a mood where he's got the eyes on and he's coming for the bowlers. He actually once said to me, Johnny, that right, let's just see it through these next couple of overs. And I think it was in New Zealand, we were under a bit of pressure, and he sort of said to me, right, I'm going to knuckle down here, they're not going to get us out, we're going to put on a partnership. I've sort of touched glove and thought, yeah, you're right, Johnny, we're going to stick in here. Next ball, he hit Neil Wagner out of the ground for 6. I said, Johnny, I thought we were knuckling down here. He said, I was in my slot. I was like, right, okay, whatever you want to do.
Basically, what that means is you knuckle down with me, don't get out, and let me do the real work.
Yeah, really good stuff with Tamal Mills and Mark Wood on the Good Pace for Radio podcast, which is available right now on BBC Sounds. We wanted to pick up on this issue about being in the zone, and I'm going to ask you, Michael, clearly as the batter in the group, what it feels like to be in the zone. Have you had moments when you were just in that kind of absence of all thought beyond playing the game moment?
Definitely, yeah. I've been lucky to experience it quite a few times. Some of my best knocks across all formats. I would say, it's just having that. How can I put it? You basically. It's almost like someone presses the volume button on the. Just takes the volume completely out of things off the TV, and you're just watching. You're just they're playing in complete silence almost, and. Every ball, you're just emotionless, you just react, you're just very present with what's going on. It's quite tough to do. It's not something that it's not like a light switch that you can turn on and off, unfortunately. I mean, you'd be lucky if you experience it once in a career. I mean, I've been blessed to experience it quite a few times, but it was always something, I always saw it as almost like a bit of a holy grail for sports people to get in that zone, especially in big games, maybe finals that I've played in and things like that. So I'd always try and practice and prepare to try and get myself into that state as much as possible by just doing maybe a lot of scenario stuff, repetition, that kind of stuff, repetition practice, so that when I get into the actual middle, just allowing the body to kind of react. But it's very tough skill to be able to do.
Yeah, I assume it's not a skill, is it really? Tough as go on.
Well, it's funny. Well, first of all, I just think I would have been on the second bus. 2 buses? They never had 2 buses when I played.
You're thinking about the buses.
but there you go. No, well, I mean, it's a very strange thing, isn't it, the zone? As you said, been there a couple of 3 times myself. And... But
this is bowling, not batting, I'm assuming, Tuffers.
Well, no. Well, listen, I've been in the zone a couple of times, just a fear of my own life when I've been out. You know what I mean? You have to get in. That's what I'm trying to say, is that every time you walk across the white line, you try to get into that zone. And that's what preparation is, and how you go about your business to then go out and try and get a performance out of yourself. It's very, very difficult to explain that sometimes to people, because they think, well, why don't you just do that for every game that you're playing? But sometimes there is a sort of a definite feeling, and I can remember when I bowled the West Indies out and Aussie out of the Oval, that I could have run up backwards with my tongue out, with my trousers down, and still gone out. You know what I mean? You just do get in to that sort of place where everything seems to slow down a little bit, apart from yourself. It's a wonderful place to be, but I think that professional sport is about trying to always get there, but then realising that you're not in that little special place, and then still trying to get the best performance out of yourself, if you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, you just can't walk around in the zone all the time, and you just can't go out there and say, well, yeah, I can't bowl because I'm not in the zone. So it's a juggling act all the time, but when it comes on you do know it and you feel it.
Yeah, I certainly. You spend your whole career trying to, like the guys have said, get in that zone, and that's why you have routines, you have pre-ball routines that then turn into superstitions that then turn into you driving yourself up the wall because you can't decipher between the two. It's a very, very fine balance to have. And I think that someone like Jos Buttler, he's one of those guys that when he gets into like a problem-solving state of mind, and you see it when he's chased down the runs. I remember a few years ago against Australia, he scored the most ridiculous 100 with the tail to beat Australia at Trent Bridge, I think it was, in an ODI. And you can just see that when he gets in that problem-solving state of mind, he just finds himself in that place more often than other people, and that's why he's such a fantastic player.
Yeah, and you forget it's a strange thing. I mean, Finney just touched on it there. This is why you sort of prepare and you go through routines and everything. But when the zone does sort of come on you a little bit, those routines you don't even remember. It's second nature, isn't it? It's sort of like you get into this, but your head's in the right place, your arm's in the right place, you follow through. You're not thinking about it. That's what's it's such a sort of
kind
like
of instinctive,
mental,
is it?
It's very instinctive, that's right. And so sometimes I think people can get a little bit carried away with process and this and that, because sometimes it does take away that little instinct and reaction and gut feel and going out there and just living it, you know what I mean, and getting into the moment.
That's what I was going to say. It's a very fine line between the zone and this, getting stage fright, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, especially in the big games, finals, test matches, ODIs where you've got to win, you're batting with the last man, that's kind of, cameras are on you, and it's being able to somehow flush out all the noise, all the expectation, all the calculations that you've got in your head, run chases or what you're going to bowl at the top of your mark, and just being able to focus on that one ball. That's all that matters at that moment in time. It's just being able to focus on that one event, be it with bat in hand or what delivery you're going to bowl. And that's the state you get into it could be for a spell, as Finney and Tuffers would know, or for me, it could be across a whole innings where you just literally feel untouchable.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you that actually, Carb. Sorry, Tuffers. Just quickly on that. I interviewed Graham Fowler a couple of months ago for a different thing, and he was saying that he thinks he was probably only in the zone maybe once or twice in his whole career. So I don't know whether it's just that feeling that you feel completely invincible, that it doesn't matter what the bowler bowls at you.
Yeah.
You're just going to stay in. Is that what it feels like, Michael?
Yeah, I would 100% agree with him. As I said, I would say across my whole career, I would say I can only remember. I mean, this is to show you it's such a funny state of mind that you can barely remember it. But I can. Maybe there was a couple of innings that I played that I can certainly remember that stick out for me, where from start to finish, I could have batted another 2 days, and just in that complete bubble of concentration where I was never going to make a mistake. Everything was just moving. I was seeing the ball almost before the bowler. I was reading his mind, kind of stuff. You know what I mean? But it's so hard to get into that state of mind every day. Most days it was a dogfight. The ball looks like a ball bearing, to be honest, at the beginning, and then you somehow, scramble yourself around to suddenly be there at the end, and you might scratch out a decent 100 if you're lucky, but most of the time. But it's a very tough place to get into. But when you get there, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you can't perform if you're not in the zone, though. You know what I mean? No. That is what then all the practice and all the routine and everything, because you think, it's not quite my day-to-day, but that doesn't mean that you can't, as you say, pull out a scratchy 100 or get yourself a 5-for. That's then what is being a professional, and you have to realise that, you know what I mean? It always used to make me laugh, though, when I was sort of like playing in the West Indies and we were sort of like having breakfast and everything, I was sort of trying to sort of get some scrambled eggs down my neck, you know what I mean, and got to go out and face the West Indies attack, and Viv Richards and Desmond Haynes and everything like that. Curtly Ambrose and Courtney Walsh used to cruise down, not a care in the world. You know what I mean? So they were just, I think also that had a lot to do with talent as well, and belief and what have you. You know what I mean? But when you get there, it is some sort of place.
But that's sorry, Ellie.
Go on, you finish, Michael.
Yeah, I was just saying that, that's why I always believe, that doing coaching now, it's such a game of individuality, and understanding the individual that you're coaching and how they are as a personality, not trying to enforce things on them. Kat would have been very different to, say, myself. Finney would have been very different to myself in the way we prepare for games and for our respective skills, but it just shows you that there's not one way of getting in that zone.
Interesting message from Chris, who's got in touch with us, who says, as a young sports psychologist in 1997, I was lucky enough to work with Middlesex and got to have a couple of great conversations with Phil about the zone, trying to understand what would help a player get into that state and really feel the flow and undeniable confidence that they were going to produce a great performance. But that's interesting, that idea that you can get a player into that mindset, when sometimes it just feels like it's almost a kind of an out-of-body experience.
It's absolutely, but a lot of that comes from just, I think, rhythm. You know what I mean? Rhythm and sort of like that flow. But you're forever trying to do that, and sometimes it comes on you, and sometimes it doesn't. You know what I mean? It's a very strange thing to sort of try and explain, actually. But when special things happen, and the boys were right. Woody was right, you know what I mean? Joss was in that. You can tell. Virat Kohli against Pakistan, you know what I mean? You could just tell that, whether that was the crowd and everything, but he was just not thinking about anything and just reacting with all of those skills and what have you, and all of that practice in him anyway. He almost freed himself away from that and just smashed it.
Yeah. What's it like, Finney, when you're bowling to somebody? I mean, can you tell if you've got a batter in the zone, that the expression is glazed, he's not engaging in any way with his batting partner?
Yeah, you can, and it's your job as a bowler to try and unsettle that. And a lot of the time, when you see people, a bit of sledging. I'm not intelligent enough to come up with any good sledges, unfortunately. So I have to use different means of getting into a batsman's mentality. But yeah, you try different plans. You try to unsettle them with short pitch bowling, and you try and find different methods to try and get yourself inside their head, because sometimes when a batter is on and it feels like they're just second guessing everything that you're trying, they're second guessing you and they're on top. A sensible bowler gets that batter off strike and bowls at the fella who's at the other end, who might be scratching around. But certainly in one-day cricket, and Joss actually touched on it before the tournament, I can't remember who he was interviewed by, but he actually said that we may see a time where people start turning down singles in the last over, or in an over where they feel like they can take a bowler on because they are in the zone against that bowler and they just have a feeling about what he's going to bowl. And it's interesting that now we're seeing in the tournament and hearing the guys talk about when Joss gets in that frame of mind. So it wouldn't surprise me if we see something like that through this tournament, because he is very forward thinking. He's a very progressive man. He's a very progressive captain, and to see him do things slightly differently, I don't think it would be a surprise.
Yeah, forget the singles. Yeah. Listen, just give it to me. I'm going in 4s and 6s. I think you're right, Finney. You know, I mean, a lot of the guys are doing that now anyway, aren't they? Just towards the end of the game, saying, well, listen, I'm the only fellow who's going to get us across the line here. So if they don't quite connect with one, they're not bothering with the 1s and the 2s or whatever. You know, they're just saying, no, I'm just going to stay here and start whacking them out the ground. Talking of people who got in the zone, Brian Lara got in the zone against me. He got 375. and I don't think any of us hit him on the pad. I mean, it was amazing. Let alone got one past the outside edge. I mean, that was just. It was almost a delight to see, actually. And as Finney was saying, you then try your little tricks of your trade to try and unsettle them and second guess them. But sometimes it's just they almost know what you're going to do before you bowl.
And Tuffers, did you know that straight away when you were bowling to him at that point? Did you know straight away that Brian is on here, or did that take some time? Maybe after he was past 50. When he got
to about 200, Garth, I sort of thought to myself, "Crikey, this boy's on it." But it was funny in that innings when I bowled at him, he scored like in blocks of 10. You know what I mean? That's when you just don't realise, you know what I mean? All of a sudden he had 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. He wasn't scratching around and then had a little period or go through the gears, what the boys now. He was just, as you say, he was just on it. And when he got to about 30, we thought, oh, crikey, this could be tricky.
He's in the mood today, as I say. Talking about people in the mood, Michael, what have you made of Virat Kohli in this tournament so far? He's now the highest ever T20 World Cup run scorer. He went past Mahela Jayawardena's record in the game against Bangladesh when he hit 64. I mean, you mentioned that innings against Pakistan. It sounded like he was on a different planet again.
Yeah, I'm a huge Virat Kohli fan. Lauded that innings. I think for me, I've always believed, again, it's the modern hitter versus the classic batsman. You know, you've got Hardik Pandya at the other end, the 40 for 4. I mean, all the, it was Royal Rovers stuff, wasn't it? I mean, to pull that game out the fire in the way that it did, India-Pakistan, there's no bigger rivalry, MCG, 100,000 people. And as we've been mentioning, Virat, he's had a tough time of it of late, so there's, a lot of a lot of criticism come his way as well. So he needed to play and stand up and play that knock, and boy did he. It was, for me, it was just the way he calculates the run chase. Is phenomenal. If I ever had that opportunity to sit down with him at some point and just get him to explain to me what he sees when he's batting, how he manages to always pull off these run chases with balls to spare as well. It's phenomenal. He just has a great feel, a bit like Josh Buttler. These guys just have when they're batting, they just have that great feel for when to press the go button, when to throttle back, when to go again. It's that they cycle in and out. So it was an unbelievable inning. So I mean, that second to last though, those 2 6s in a row, I think for me just summed it up really. Of again, someone in that zone, he just popped the guy straight, off the back foot, bang. Next ball flicked him into the crowd, and you knew from there really Pakistan they just had nowhere to go in that innings. You know, they thought, oh, we're in trouble here. It was just, you know, the batsman really just calculating a beautiful run chaser. I thought it was a great innings, one of the best I've seen.
Yeah, just another thing about that zone, you can almost then try too hard for it as well, and that doesn't work. So it's also sometimes about sort of managing that a little bit as well, because you can sort of get too fired up and too sort of like, as you say, too glazy and sort of want it so hard that then things don't seem to sort of happen. But you look at all the great players. They always seem to come up just at the right time with something. Look at a Tiger Woods or something like that. Everyone thinks that. Then all of a sudden, there's just that little bit of brilliance, isn't there? And that's what makes, you know, top players what they are.
England going into the final round of matches knowing a win against Sri Lanka is likely to be enough to secure a place in the semi-finals. You can hear commentary live on Sports Extra at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. And Chris Woakes has been speaking to our correspondent Jonathan Agnew today, and Ag has asked him if he was relieved that England have reignited their World Cup hopes.
I think we all knew that we were capable of obviously putting in that performance and getting the win against such a good side, but you know, obviously after the kind of stop-start sort of start to the group stages, obviously losing to Ireland, you know, the Australia game washed out. I think we were really keen to get out there and kind of put in that sort of performance and obviously keep our World Cup hopes alive as well. So, you know, we knew it was effectively a knockout game for us. So to put in that performance was really pleasing.
Yeah. Did you feel under pressure at the start of that game because of what happened in Ireland?
Yeah, I suppose you do. But naturally, you know, having played a lot of cricket and experienced as I am, I think, you know, you do realise that this game can be fickle at times, and you do have to kind of park that and just remind yourself that, you know, it's a new day, it's a new game, and kind of anything can happen again. And you know, you try and do everything in your control to make sure you're doing the right things and execute your skills, and then what happens down the other end effectively is, you know, is out your control. So yeah, of course you obviously feel that little bit of pressure, but you know, it's a big tournament, big World Cups. You know, it's where you want to be and you want to play in, and you know, performances like the other night is, you know, when you get your real rewards.
Yeah. And you must be chuffed. I mean, it was a miserable summer for you. I suspect you might have wondered even if you'd be here, and now you're, 3 games away possibly from a final?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a tough summer. Not playing any cricket in the summer was tough. You know, obviously struggled with the knee and trying to get that right, and you know, had my eyes on this, but then, like you say, I didn't really know if I would be here or not. So to be here now, standing here, having obviously, you know, played 4, going into what we hopefully is obviously all knockout games now. Fingers crossed we can get through Saturday. You know, it's just a really nice feeling.
Yeah. Are you sitting and watching other games? I mean, how does it work? You all sort of congregating and sitting there together?
Yeah, I think, you know, some of the guys like to watch more cricket than others, but you know, especially the games which really do affect us, kind of things, teams that you're going to come up against, or you know, games which do affect like net run rate and the positions in the table. I think guys obviously got more keen eyes on. But yeah, there's been a few games which have obviously had more attention than others. You know, in particular, obviously last week, a few days ago, the Australia-Ireland game was obviously quite a big game in terms of how the group was going to look. So quite a lot of the guys watched that one. And obviously, yeah, I mean, there's obviously more games that are going to be like that as well. So yeah, some guys like to watch more than others, put it that way.
Sri Lanka then, come on. I mean, they haven't had a great tournament, but they're capable of beating anybody.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we've already seen that, haven't we, in this tournament? You know, at World Cups, you know, if you give teams a sniff, you know, teams are more than good enough and capable of causing upsets, and you know, and really putting teams under the pump. And you know, I've said it before, T20 is a fickle game. You need to make sure you start well and get into games, because otherwise momentum can build and teams can get away from you. So yeah, really important that we focus on you know, the team in front of us on Saturday, which is obviously Sri Lanka, and you know, they'll be absolutely desperate to obviously win as well. So you know, we have to kind of come in and put a performance like we did against New Zealand, and we'll obviously try to do that.
Well, that was Chris Woakes talking to Jonathan Agnew. Steve Finn, listening to Chris talking there, it does strike you how much motivation potentially there is, not just for him, but also for Mark Wood, having sat out pretty much the whole of the summer with injury, to actually go on and become double World Cup winners, which they could do if they can get through.
Yeah, they could do. And I think that being injured gives you the perspective that sometimes you need when it comes to big moments. We spoke about getting yourself in the zone or finding that equilibrium where you are just concentrating solely on the task at hand. And sometimes having setbacks through injury, it makes you appreciate those moments and enjoy those moments a little bit more. So it's no wonder, I think, to see those guys playing with a smile on their face and really appreciating the opportunity that they have, which, in my opinion, when you team that with the determination that they both have, I think that puts you in a nice place to go out there and enjoy playing your cricket and get the best out of yourself, which you want to do and you need to do in a world tournament. They're both older guys. Chris Woakes is my age, 33. Mark Wood, I think, is 32. So they've been around a little while. They have the experience to be able to manage those situations, and they've been fantastic, I think, in just keeping everyone calm out there on the pitch. And they seem like a really nice blend of youth and experience at the moment in England.
Yeah, with the extra plug for the I keep wanting to call it a different podcast name, but the Good Pace for Radio podcast, because it's very much that sense that there is a good bonding, you know. And actually, Mike Hussey's on the pod as well, talking about actually what a good group of players they are together, and how they blend and how they create this relaxed atmosphere around the group as well.
Yeah, well, I think that the backroom staff has a lot to do with that as well, especially in high pressurised games. It's about their experience and about how they set the team up and keep everyone just bubbling under and what have you. So everyone's got a role to play, for sure. I just don't want to see England, as Chris Woakes mentioned it there, give them a sniff. I think England are a better side than Sri Lanka, you know what I mean? And so just, you know, don't give them a sniff early. Don't lose 3 reckless ones in the power play early on just to give them that opportunity. Just take a breath, because if you play to your ability, we should beat Sri Lanka.
Right, okay, let's talk about who's going to go through in that case, because it is fascinating, because theoretically only 2 teams out of 12 are absolutely mathematically unable to qualify. That's the Netherlands and Afghanistan. But Sri Lanka, India and Zimbabwe, they would need a huge amount of luck, loads of rain and big net run rate swings to make it through. So Group 1, so it's England's group. So New Zealand are top, and they've got a much better net run rate than everyone else with 5 points. England also 5 points, and then Australia 5 points in third place. But England's net run rate is significantly better than Australia's. And then Sri Lanka, I mean, very much outside chance, and Ireland almost out of it as well. So England, a win would almost pretty much guarantee qualification because of their better run rate. New Zealand, they are almost certainly through, provided that they beat Ireland. And Australia will be hoping that maybe Sri Lanka can do something dramatic against them. So who what are we saying? New Zealand through, and one or other of England, Australia? And I know you're going to say England.
And I think that's where it's helpful that we're playing last out of those all those 3 games as well, because we just know what we know what we got to do. It's as simple as that. And in the short form of the game, that's always handy. That's why people like to chase. People like to know what's in front of them. So that's a big plus for England.
Carbs gone.
No, I was saying, I think from here on in, I think it very much plays into England's hands. I think if you had thrown this to England at the start of the tournament to say, you know, who would you like to play in this scenario, with all due respect to Sri Lanka, I think they would have picked Sri Lanka as one of those teams they would have liked to play in this situation. I think now it's just a case they've got to win and win well.
Group 2, Finney, I'm going to let you cast your eye over this one. So we've got India top, 6 points, played 4. Then South Africa played 4 on 5 points. Pakistan played 4 points. Bangladesh played 4 points. So it's going to be out of those 4. But basically, if India and South Africa win, they go through. So do you think that's going to be the most likely result? South Africa play the Netherlands and India play Zimbabwe?
It feels like that's the logical way for it to work out, but we know how unpredictable T20 cricket can be. All you need is one person on the opposition to have a day out and to pull something out the bag that's unexpected, as we saw with Ireland against England. Everything can happen so quickly and you can lose the game. But I think for the teams that they have and the lineups and the depth actually that both those squads have, I think India and South Africa are the two teams that I would imagine going through. But you can't write Pakistan off in World Cups. They always have something special in World Cups, but I do see them as a slightly more disjointed team than those other two at the moment.
Well, all will be revealed over the weekend, pretty much. As you say, England play on Saturday morning, so the rest of the group will be sorted out before then. They've been completed before then. So it is Ireland against New Zealand, Australia against Afghanistan tomorrow in Adelaide, England against Sri Lanka on Saturday at the SCG, and then all on Sunday, South Africa against Netherlands, Pakistan against Bangladesh, both in Adelaide as well, and then India against Zimbabwe at the MCG. Right then, let's get a little bit of perspective on this and about another big story around this week. Kate Cross joins us. Hello.
Hi, Ellie. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. And I'm thinking about podcasts, and I've got a good pace for radio. I've got No Balls podcast, all going around my head. But yeah, host of the BBC No Balls cricket podcast, and one of the 18 centrally contracted players announced by the ECB this week for England women. So 6 new names, a few familiar names as well. Lauren Bell, Alice Capsey, Charlie Dean, Freya Kemp, Emma Lamb, Izzy Wong are the new 6. And there are going to be nearly 100 women paid to play cricket across the women's regional games. So Kate, I mean, that is very good news, obviously, to have those 100 players. But for you to get your central contract again, I mean, what does that feel like?
Oh yeah, it's always a bit of a relief. I think obviously you get your 12-month contract and you're kind of always fighting to survive, I guess. You're obviously trying to enjoy the journey as you go and enjoy playing cricket for England, but there's always that. I guess that nagging doubt that if you don't have a good year, there is a good chance you could lose it. I think obviously the 100 contracts is incredible. The fact that we've moved that quickly in 8 years. We first signed our professional contracts in 2014, so we've come that far in such a short space of time. And where can the next eight years take us? It's pretty exciting.
Do you almost feel envious of somebody like Alice Capsey, for example, at 18 years old? She's got her first central contract for England, and she can look forward to a long future of professional cricket.
Yeah, I mean, I do and I don't. I was one of the generation that we had to go to university. It wasn't a career option for us to play professional cricket, so you kind of looked after your studies. And then I was a very, very lucky one that came straight out of uni, and the contracts came in the following year. So I count myself very lucky, but I think it's more the fact that young girls now can look at like an Alice Capsey and, they can start thinking about cricket from such a younger age and dedicate themselves so much earlier to it. And the 100, obviously the central contracts are brilliant, but the 100 contracts that are now going to be offered from February onwards give female cricketers so much more stability, which I think that's actually the bigger story here. It's not necessarily the 18 girls that have got the England ones, but actually, if I was to lose my England contract now, there's stability underneath international cricket, which we never used to have. And that's probably where the game has developed a lot more. And, it might not get the headlines as much, but actually that's the better thing for us.
That's a very good point, isn't it, actually, because it's happened in the men's game as well, that players have lost their contracts, but then gotten them back again, but they've still been able to carry on at that level. So you've got people like, with Anya Shrubsole and Fran Wilson have retired, but Lauren Winfield-Hill, Maddie Villiers, Georgia Elwes, Katie George have missed out on contracts. But to be able to increase the talent pool as well, presumably, is a huge thing, that if you've got people playing, not necessarily full-time, they might have to do something else to help pay the mortgage, but to have that chance to actually play your game and get paid for it, it's got to be good at all levels.
Yeah, it's massive. And I think that's what I mean when I always think Alex Hartley's a really good example, but when she lost her England contract 3 years ago, there was nothing for her to fall into. She couldn't be a professional cricketer anywhere else in the country. Whereas now, Maddie's a good example. She's just signed a 2-year contract with the Sunrisers. And so she can continue being a professional cricketer. and also still challenged to get back into that England squad and those teams. So it's not that it's now all or nothing for us, and I think that will almost increase the talent because people aren't so worried about the failure side of it because it's not as drastic as it was 18 months ago, 2 years ago.
Look, we've been talking. We've still got Finney and Michael Carberry and Tuffers with us as well, Kate. And we've been talking a little bit earlier on about the unfortunate Zimbabwean fielder who lost his trousers diving over the boundary ropes. So I'm going to get them to reveal their most embarrassing moments on the cricket field. Anything that you'd like to share with the group, or do you want to let them go first?
Yeah, can I have a think about it, please?
Yeah, you have a think about it. All right, then. Michael Carberry, what is the most embarrassing thing that happened to you?
I knew you were going to come to me first as well. I think the worst one for me has got to be, and anyone that's played with me will know I'm very meticulous with preparation in terms of like getting ready for games. So I think forgetting my kit for a T20 finals day, but packing my golf clubs for the team golf day, and it was that sickening.
Right, Carl.
Of course, Tuffers. Of course. You know, it's that sickening feeling when the bus driver's just offloading the bags, and I'm thinking, the bus is now clear, and I'm the only one not with my cricket bag. It was still in the changing room as I packed it, and we had to get a taxi to go get it, to bring it to Birmingham so I could get there in time so I could play. That was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. Finney, have you lost any items of clothing inadvertently on the field?
I suppose I've found myself in compromising situations a couple of times whilst I've been out there on the pitch. I'd say probably the one that's most embarrassing is probably, I think my thigh pad broke once, and sometimes you see guys fiddling around with their box and their thigh pad in between balls, getting it in the right spot, but I had to fully pull my trousers down and sort my thigh pad out in front of a ground of about 25,000 people watching me stood there in my cycling shorts with my thigh pad over the top. So hopefully the cameras weren't too far zoomed in on the TV that day.
Yeah, and tough as we know, you maintained your dignity at all times on a cricket field.
Playing against Warwickshire at Edgbaston, it was coming towards the end of the summer, and all the wasps are sort of like hovering around on the floor, and they're a bit dopey. A couple actually flew up my trousers, so I actually had to take my trousers off and get them out and get the wasps out of my trousers. Luckily, I had my cycle shorts on.
Well, that's Kate. A quick one to share with the group, or are you going to take a rain check on this?
Plead the fifth.
To be honest, I'm actually quite boring. I don't think there's anything like clothing that's come off when I've been playing. I had the really embarrassing. It actually was more embarrassing afterwards, but the run out incident that I had we were playing at Northants, and I didn't actually know a cricket rule, which is people don't often admit to when they're a professional cricketer. But I didn't know that if you still had one bail on the stumps, you could take that as a run out. I thought you had to pull the stump out of the ground, and I've got a lot of stick on social media for not knowing that. It looked a bit questionable watching it back, but that was pretty embarrassing.
Final quick one from Sam, who says, I was at a football game at the Reebok Stadium for a Bolton home game where the pre-match entertainment had a singer who burped midway through a song. So that's...